We think we know Beale Street. It is physically still here. It is a popular destination. What are people walking past when they go to Beale Street that they don't know the significance of? What do we see in front of us that we should know more about?
Wow, well, that's a great question. It was a complete civilization. It was everything. It had the saloons, and it had the brothels and the gambling houses, and it had all of the great blues music, but it was a center for African American business. As I mentioned, the political legacy, which really goes on from the late 1800s through the early 20th century as well, and became the center of the most powerful black political organization in the country through Robert Church Jr. I think Church Jr. is probably the most overlooked figure of massive importance in Beale Street's history. At the peak of his political power, it was said that he had a hotline that ran from Beale Street to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He was so influential in political circles. So 50 years before the Voting Rights Act in the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s allowed for greater black political participation at the polls, Robert Church Jr. was organizing huge black voter registration drives. And people don't know that. That's important. And that's
what years was that?
He started to build this. He first called it the Lincoln League, which was an organization of black voting rights in 1916. By 1920, he was the key Republican official for West Tennessee, and through a truly extraordinary effort, helped to win Tennessee for the Republican Party in the presidential election of 1920. Now, that sounds strange, an African-American Republican leader. Basically, the party identities have been swapped with regard to African-American participation since then. But back in that day, the GOP was the party of Lincoln. Virtually 100% black people who were interested in politics were registered, were Republicans. The Democrat Party was the party of the Confederacy, more or less. I mean, that was so those identities have changed over time. But in 1920, not a single Southern state had gone for the Republicans in a presidential election since Reconstruction. Tennessee was the first one, largely through the efforts of Robert Church. That's how he built his national prestige. He also went off to organize black voter registration drives in Illinois, Indiana, Maryland. So he spread his influence not only from Beale Street in the city into the state, but throughout the country.